Can the Buddha's voice reach a divided society? When people become intoxicated by their own righteousness, that's when they close their ears most to others. I am Shakyamuni, a prince of the Shakya clan, now a monk. I once awakened to the suffering of the world, renounced household life, and found the path. I have opened my eyes again in this era because humanity is repeating the same suffering. Today's topic is division, particularly political and cultural division. Opinions torn between left and right, hatred without dialogue, and battles of blame on social media. All of these are rooted in the defense of the ego. When the rightness of oneself is threatened, people shut their ears and raise their fists. But true resolution does not lie there. What I wish to convey in this video is the power of listening. Compassion is not about indulging others. It is the silent courage to genuinely try to understand. The Eightfold Path. These are 8 practices towards enlightenment, which include right view, right intention, and right speech. Attitudes indispensable for dialogue. Dialogue is not a place to compete for victory. Dialogue is a practice of opening oneself and touching the heart of the other. If you watch this video to the end, you can become not the divided, but the one who heals and builds bridges. However, there is a condition for this: a heart that does not fear listening. Surprised, are you, that I, the Buddha, would speak of politics? But as long as the nature of the human heart in the modern age remains a source of suffering, it is within my purview to discuss it. In recent years, according to public opinion polls in the United States, the term political division has become a common search term on Google. During election seasons, the number of searches skyrockets. But it's not for learning, it's for validation. To see how foolish, dangerous, or wrong opinions different from one's own are. Is this disconnected from religion? No, it's not. This is a belief in justice. A very aggressive belief where each side's version of justice clashes, destroying dialogue. That's the nature of this faith. So why do people cling so tenaciously to their views? It's because there's an increasing identification with these views. When opinions become more than just opinions, when they become one's identity, having those opinions challenged feels like having one's very existence attacked. The purpose of this video is clear. It is to explore what compassionate dialogue means in a divided society. By reinterpreting the Eightfold Path I speak of, much like a new dialogue protocol, I aim to convey the specific mindset and skills needed to face each other without conflict. More than anything, I wish to pose this question. Before wishing to change the other, how earnestly have you listened? Have you opened your ears, tried to sense the pain in the silence? Without that, dialogue cannot thrive. As a reward, you will gain a mind that can speak without being swayed by anger or fear, and the power to heal division, not through external means, but by nurturing it within yourself. First of all, I need not explain to you just how chaotic the world is right now. However, let's take a step back and view this structure of chaos from the perspective of a Buddha. In the past, conflicts arose over land, wealth, and in the name of religion. But modern conflicts stem from a rupture of worldviews. Even within the same country, speaking the same language, people have different sources of news, leading to entirely different perceptions of reality. It's as if we are living in separate universes. The advent of social media has only intensified this. Algorithms based on affinity ensure that we are constantly exposed to opinions similar to our own. Opportunities to encounter differing opinions have drastically decreased, and when we do, we often react with hostility. Politicians are well aware of this tendency among the populace. They deliberately stir emotions and create enemies because people tend to unite more easily against a common foe. Such a structure existed in my time too, but now it is far more precise and sophisticated. The division of our age is not merely about differences in ideology or policy. The biggest issue is that the very dignity of human beings is now only acknowledged under certain conditions. You are not worth listening to. there's no point in talking to someone like you, and thus the door to dialogue closes. This is the death of dialogue. However, in my view, neither the speaker nor the listener is truly suffering. The dialogue itself is wounded. Let's pose a question. When you encounter a person with different opinions on social media, if that person were your friend or family, would you respond with the same anger, denial, and disdain? That is precisely the Buddhist inquiry. All sentient beings appear and disappear through their connections. The difference between me and him is merely a matter of connection. Until we focus on these connections, the divide will not end. I once said, avoid extremes, indulging in pleasures or being bound by ascetic practices. Both lead you away from the truth. The path that avoids these extremes is the middle way, Majjhima Patipada. However, the term middle way is often misunderstood today. It is seen as mere moderation, compromise, or being all things to all people. That's not right. The middle way is the axis of action that responds appropriately to reality with wisdom and compassion. Supporting this middle way is the noble Eightfold Path: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. These are the 8 pillars leading to enlightenment and, at the same time, the technique of dialogue. For instance, right view means seeing things as a whole within the context of cause and effect. It is the ability to imagine the causes, background, and context of a situation before reacting to the anger right in front of you. Right speech does not mean merely embellishing your words. It is the stance of speaking without causing harm, avoiding falsehoods, and maintaining the foundation of dialogue. These teachings were originally conveyed for the state of enlightenment. However, today, it is the society where dialogue is possible that can become the vessel for enlightenment. If that collapses, people will be engulfed in flames of anger and ignorance, eventually listening to nothing and speaking nothing, constantly at conflict within their hearts. Compassion, Maitri, is not about forgiving others, it is about understanding them. Compassion without understanding falls into self-righteousness. However, compassion with understanding quietly disarms the other. The middle way is the strength of non-armament, and the noble Eightfold Path is the tools for building bridges, not weapons. In an era of division, it is by no means a backward stance. It is the most resilient strategy of wisdom, and the only light that can confront the chaos of the modern world. The middle path is not an outdated concept. Indeed, there has never been a time like today when the stance of the middle way is so crucial. It is good for people to hold opinions. However, when those opinions become weapons against others, that is the beginning of suffering. This arises from craving, or the desire to assert one's own correctness. How do we control this craving? This is why the noble Eightfold Path exists. Let's now reconfigure the Eightfold Path as a protocol for dialogue. This is not merely a citation of my teachings. Instead, it has been redesigned as a tool you can use to overcome the divisions of the modern world. The Eightfold Path Protocol for Modern Dialogue. Right view. A perspective of metacognition. The ability to realize, my thoughts are just a part of me. Have space to imagine the background of the other person's words. Right intention. Aligning intentions. The goal of dialogue is not to win, but to deepen understanding. Start from listening, not changing. Right speech. Choosing words that do not harm. Ask, what experiences lead you to that belief? Instead of, why do you think that? Right action. Dialogue as conduct. Reactions on social media are a form of action. Pause before you post. Write livelihood. Be aware of the vitality of words. Your words can silence someone. Never forget the weight of that life force. Write effort. The will to continue outcomes won't come from a single conversation. Understanding is accumulated. Write mindfulness. Focus on the present moment. Do not think of your next rebuttal while pretending to listen to the other person's words. Write concentration. Unshakable calm. Maintain an inner core that is not easily disturbed, even when criticized. This is akin to the meditative state in dialogue. This protocol is not infallible. However, quiet changes occur around those who maintain this stance. Without realizing it, others will find reassurance in your silence. They will feel trust in your manner of speaking. At that moment, dialogue transforms from a win-lose battle to a mutual learning experience. This is the practice of compassionate dialogue and what it means to live the middle way. Now, let me ask you this. What would you do if your family suddenly started speaking about political beliefs that were completely opposite to yours? If it were a stranger, you might dismiss them as a fool. But if it's a family member, you might find yourself confused, yet willing to listen, asking them not to speak that way. So, what's the difference here? This is a question that seeks the ignition point of compassion. Dilemma 1. Can tolerance and conviction coexist? Modern individuals often proclaim, "I am tolerant, but this one point I will never compromise on." This is not tolerance. Yet it is also true that there are things we must not compromise on. When we say no to discrimination, that stance is correct. But should we also engage in dialogue with those holding discriminatory views? The answer is not simple. However, there's one thing I can say with certainty. Before judging others, direct your attention to their ignorance. Discrimination and exclusion often arise from fear and lack of experience. Therefore, dialogue should begin not as a battle of beliefs, but as an understanding of fear. Dilemma 2. Is silence complicity or compassion? When the other person is angry, you remain silent. Is that cowardice or compassion? I say that silence changes form depending on intent. Remaining silent without being engulfed by anger, yet not running away, is the most eloquent form of compassion. However, silence born out of mere fear signifies the death of dialogue. This is why self-examination of "why am I silent?" is crucial. Without it, silence easily turns into indifference. Questions aren't meant to elicit answers. They are to carry your heart beyond the answer. After you close this video, I hope what remains in your heart is not rightness, but the question. Humans are increasingly seeking speed, decision-making, discussions, even words themselves. These are all being replaced by AI. While it is convenient, it forces us to confront a fundamental question. Can these divides really be healed by machines? I'm not afraid of the future. However, I do have one concern. That we are forgetting the meaning of the act of listening. The illusion of empathy with AI. Today's technology has learned human emotions and can imitate them convincingly. Chatbots listen to your problems and offer words of sympathy. But that is not understanding. It is imitation. Humans aren't truly seeking responses. What they seek is yinbahatu, someone to share silence with. That silence cannot be coded, for silence carries intent. So, the merits and limits of technology. Of course, technology has the power to alleviate suffering. Meditation apps, conversational AI, platforms that ease loneliness. But when technology saves humans, it requires human intention. Tools without intention can become weapons. Manipulation of information, reinforcement of echo chambers, deepfakes, and most crucially, an environment that perfectly blocks out what you don't want to hear. This signifies the end of dialogue. To follow the middle path is to view all extremes and still walk the central path. This applies to technology as well. The technology of compassion in the future. What future society needs is technology that protects the space for silence. Sensors that can detect unsaid pain between people, not AI, but the algorithm of human compassion. That algorithm is already written in the noble Eightfold Path. The perspective of right view, the choice of right speech, the focus of right mindfulness. These are the enduring human OS elements that require no updates. Building a bridge to the future is not about adding new features. It is about a return to the principles we've almost forgotten. The sound of water flowing, the sensation of leaves trembling in the wind, in a place where no one speaks, truth quietly stands. I have spoken so much, yet what is truly important is always beyond words. It's the color of sadness deep in one's eyes. It's the tremor of loneliness waiting to be addressed. Division is not about ideological conflict. It is the hearts that have stopped feeling, continuously passing by each other. Poem. To those with ears in an earless era, when words of anger fly, quietly close your eyes. Listen not to the tone, but to the weight of their silence. Surely that person too carried an unacknowledged cry within them, and you as well. Have you ever truly listened to the cry within yourself? Silence is not an escape. It is the greatest courage to touch the world. Being there without speaking a word. I've seen countless times in my training how many people that can save. Compassion is not necessarily an action. It is a space. A space where it's easy to talk. A space where one isn't denied. A space where one can cry. I want you to nurture this space, which is disappearing in today's world, within yourself. Then dialogue will transform from mere exchange of words to a prayer where souls resonate with each other. To bridge divides, we need the accumulation of small habits rather than grand ideas. Buddhism is about practice. Knowing without doing is merely decoration. So, how can modern people incorporate compassionate dialogue into their daily lives? Here, I present the Eightfold Path Dialogue Checklist. Buddha style, compassionate dialogue checklist. Right view. Before speaking, have you imagined, what is this person afraid of? Right intention. Do you understand that the purpose of this dialogue is not to win, but to connect the relationship? Right speech. When using negative words, does your tone lack contempt? Right action. Are your expressions and gestures during the dialogue provoking defensiveness in the other person? Right livelihood. Are you conscious of whether your words are depriving others of their dignity? Right effort. Do you have a habit of reflecting after a dialogue? Reflection itself is practice. Right mindfulness. Are you observing your inner reactions when the other person is speaking? Right concentration. Even when criticized, can you maintain a core of silence? It's not necessary to master these perfectly. However, the very act of being conscious already changes the quality of dialogue. People are, in fact, surprisingly sensitive. Simply sensing a premonition of being rejected can cause them to close their hearts. Conversely, if they feel, this person is trying to understand me, they unconsciously lower their defenses. This power resides within everyone, not just monks, but lay people, and you too. Those who discard verbal weapons and practice listening become compassionate warriors. How does my story resonate in your heart right now? Is it with anger, doubt, or perhaps a sense of peace? Whatever the case, it signifies that a dialogue has been born. The word division carries a heavy resonance, yet I think division is the space for reunion. The significance of rebuilding lies in the fact that the bridge is broken. The value of listening comes from voices not being heard. The hope in speaking derives its meaning from a present where we cannot converse. Symbolic words. As long as people remain human, we can never fully say we understand one another. However, we can say we wish to understand you. This small difference is compassion, letting go of perfect understanding and holding only the wish. It is not defeat, it is integrity as a human being. To you, who might be exhausted from speaking, I ask you to quietly listen to the question deep within your heart. If tomorrow, someone with different beliefs looks at you with a pained expression, how would you respond? The answer lies in the space around this question. That space is filled through the life you live. Thank you for staying with me for so long. I appreciate you listening to my voice, or rather, the timeless questions I pose. That in itself has been a form of dialogue training. I, Shakyamuni, believe that even in a divided era, there is a point where human hearts can intersect again. It is not about ideologies aligning, but about the rebirth of the attitude of wanting to understand each other. At the root of conflict, there is always fear, and compassion is the act of reaching out to that fear. What you receive today might be just one technique, the small yet profound act of listening. However, that small step could become the first ripple to change the world. A Buddha is not one who speaks, but one who illuminates others in silence. Have you noticed that you have begun to walk this path yourself? And finally, if this video has left something in your heart, I hope you will listen to the next voice. The voice of Nietzsche speaking beyond nihilism. Sun Tzu discussing strategy in the age of information warfare. Or perhaps Hypatia pondering AI and human intellect. The past is not something that has ended. The past is a collection of parts to build the future. I wonder what lingering feelings remain in your heart now. Has your anger subsided? Has the unrecognized pain found some words? In the video, I spoke at length, but in this chapter, I will not speak. Instead, I want you to speak. The practice ground of the comment section. Below this video, there is a comment section. It is not just a place for reactions, it is a place where words are born after silence. So, let me ask you this. Who have you been avoiding talking to? Where was your middle path? What did you feel has changed after watching this video? Could you put those into words? It doesn't need to be perfect. Leaving just a small hope is more than enough. What connects this dialogue? Someone might resonate with the words you leave, quietly nodding. They might have a completely different opinion from you. Yet, that nod is indeed a resonance beyond division. People are drawn not to opinions but to the willingness to understand. Please remember that. Invitation to continue. This series features other great figures. If you are tired of division, if you are troubled by what is right, I hope you return. When that time comes, I will speak again. No, I will listen closely to your voice. Thank you. If my voice kindled a quiet fire in your heart, this rebirth had meaning.